All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second installment of Black Music Month 30 here on the chrisstevenswrites YouTube channel. And as you can see, I have a guest today. She's appeared on previous podcasts that I've done. We've talked unsung, we've talked different, art, musical artists and television shows and different things. And she is joining me today because our social media friendship is tied to one of our favorite artists. We're both huge because she knew the man. So, they were good friends. So I had to have her on to talk about the greatness that is the man that was born, Michael Jones, but known to us as Kashif Salim. She has the Check the Rhymes YouTube show, which she interviews celebrities from all different stripes. As you can see it in the background and you can see it on the screen. It is my honor and privilege to have journalist and friend and inspiration, because this YouTube channel is pretty much mirroring hers, Shameika Rhymes. Shameika, thank you for joining me today.
Not you telling me you stealing from me. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for having me. I was going to wear my Check the Rhyme shirt, but then I was like, nope, let me throw on my I Love Kashif shirt just for this.
Well, they can go to the Check the Rhymes YouTube channel. We'll talk about that, in a second. But obviously, talking about Kashif, his life story was just something that even though he's been gone like 8 years now. We lost a lot of people in 2016 now. I think. Yeah. He died he actually passed on my birthday, actually.
Oh, wow. I don't think I knew that was your birthday.
Yeah, September 25th, because I turned 35 that day, and I was just, fooling around on YouTube, not YouTube, Twitter, checking on my birthday wishes. And then I saw, I think it was one of those soul pages from the UK. Rest in peace, because she was like, wait a minute, what? What? Mm-hmm. He was just on Unsung. Mm-hmm. And I really, and social media, you never want to, really get too close to, people on social media. But I regret never reaching out to Kashif and saying, yo, I really enjoyed your work, man. But you knew him. So just, talk about, how you and Kashif became friends and, how, y'all, you guys became such close friends.
So I met Kashif 2012, actually. I was writing for soultrain.com way back in the day. And my dad actually was like, I think you need to reach out to Kashif, interview Kashif. And I was like, Kashif ain't gonna answer me, but I'll reach out. Kashif at the time was only doing Facebook. So I sent a message on Facebook and he responded, sure. I was like, what? He don't even know if I know how to ask questions, but he was very open, very like, yes, let's talk. And that's funny because I actually was just this morning listening to that interview, which I had posted it on my Check the Rhymes YouTube channel. It's just the audio from that interview in 2012. I sound crazy, but you can hear his voice and him telling his story and talking about what he had been up to and why he took a break from the industry and all the things. But and it was like we just hit it off. And after we ended that conversation, he said, if you're ever in LA, give me a call. You've got my number now. Most people, when they say that means do not call because I'm not going to answer, right? At least that's what I mean. But I happened to go to LA actually. And I remember I was literally standing in the Grammy Museum and I said, before I walked in, I said, I'm gonna call him right quick and let him know I'm in LA. He didn't answer. So I was like, I knew it. Typical, just typical, whatever, forget him. I don't care. I'm out here visiting other people anyway. Well, when I walked into the Grammy Museum, before you have to kind of put your phone up, phone rang. And I was like, is he really calling me back? So he said, how long are you in town? And I was there for a week or whatever. And he said, well, come by my house on, I think it was a Wednesday. And I was like, your house? Like, your house? And he's like, yeah, come by my house and we'll meet and chat. And yeah. And so I thought, in hindsight, I don't know if this was today, I don't know that I would have gone to his house, but I did go. And of course he lived at the time in Marina Del Rey in California. And it was in this high-rise condo. And I pull in, valet parking. I go in and I'm like, I'm here to see Kashif. They're like, Mr. Kashif will see you in the library. The what? Like I'm North Carolina, straight ignorant, like the library. And so really what it was, I think at that time when he finally decided to show up, he left me sitting there for a good minute. And I kept thinking like, I'm about to leave. He ain't even coming. Like, so he finally comes and he sits there and we're talking. And I didn't realize he was interviewing me to see if I'm crazy. Or it should have been the other way around. Then he invited me up to his condo. And actually that was around the time Whitney had just passed away.
Ooh.
I think like, yeah, she had literally just passed away either the week before or something like that. And so he was kind of down about that. And so if you go to his Twitter account, go back to that time, like 2012, there's tweets where he's telling the story of Whitney in the studio. I was literally standing behind him in his studio in his condo because he wanted to know how to use Twitter. And so I was like, oh, I can show you. And so I'm literally like, tell the people about Whitney. Tell them what it was working with her. So he was slowly typing, and I was like, okay, that's enough. Go to the next tweet. And so that story, and it's crazy to even think about it, but I was standing over his shoulder telling him like, okay, now type this, tell them what happened, then the next part, and then the next part. So he learned how to tweet that day. And after that, we just became friends. And I hate that the one thing I really regret is when I got off the plane in LA, my phone broke. So someone that I was, at the time I was doing an online radio show. So he took me to get a temporary phone and he put in, I don't even know, some kind of photo card, SD card, some things. And so he was like, you can take pictures with this or on this camera, but I didn't have the camera with me when I went into Kashif's condo. So I don't have a picture of us together, but the only picture I have before that phone, the temporary phone died, was I took a picture. We were standing on the balcony overlooking the marina, and he was telling me some other stuff about Whitney. And so I took a picture of the water, and it was at night. And so it's a really pretty picture, but that's the only one I have. And then he gave me his book as well, which is Everything You Better Know About the Record Industry.
I still need a copy of that. I don't know where I'm going to get one, but I need a copy of that.
Yeah, this is still, he handed it to me, signed it. You probably can't see that, but
I can see it.
Yeah. So this is the only treasure I have from that day, really. Yeah, and that was that, and we became like really good friends after that.
So getting to know him as a person, for people who don't know Kashif's backstory, just really quickly, his mother gave him up for foster care when he was 4 months old. He had if you haven't watched The Unsung, I highly recommend you find it. It's TV One does a horrible job, no disrespect, of running back old episodes. I mean, they kind of forget about him after a while, but you can find it somewhere on YouTube or some other site. His Unsung, like the first few years of his life were harrowing. I mean, he went through a series of abusive foster homes before he settled in with a family. Then the foster mom there passed away, and then he finished high school homeless, and then that's when he joined BT Express. When you deal with so much of that when you're like first 17, 18 years of your life, I imagine it can be hard to let people in. But it seemed like he was such a giving human being. Why do you think that was?
I think if he liked you, you automatically became a part of the family or his family friendship circle. And he had to, and so the way that he was I didn't even realize I was being interviewed, but I guess in a way that's how he kind of tests you a little bit, to at that time, was to see, is this someone I want to get to know better? And then of course we got to know each other better, like phone conversations. And then there was a second time that I interviewed him where it was kind of because Kashif was one that knew what he wanted, right? So it was about, what was it he was doing? He was doing some kind of like virtual music lesson school type thing. And so he's like, I want you to interview me about this. And this is what I want you to ask me. And then I was like, can I do my job? No, just ask me these questions and then you can write it up. And so I wrote it up and he's like, he sent it back to me with all his edits. And I was like, this friendship is not going to work. You tell me how to do my job because I don't tell you what to do in the studio. Don't do it. And
Right.
but I do think that he just kind of, for sometimes with people with trauma, and I noticed this with some of my other friends that have gone through traumas, they just, it's like they, because they didn't get that family unit that they wanted growing up, as they age, they kind of just collect family as they go throughout life.
Right.
And so I think that's pretty much what he did.
Yeah. So getting to the music aspect of it, which of course is why we're here because it's Black Music Month.
Yeah.
He had one of the most interesting careers of anybody that you can imagine. He was a keyboardist in BT Express in his teens. He toured with Stephanie Mills. Then he started doing solo work, solo production work before his album deal. And he gave us stuff like Love Come Down from Evelyn Champagne King, So Fine from Howard Johnson. And this is what people don't remember about the early 80s is that it was a tough time for Black music because disco had died a fiery death, as we all know by now, you know, the Disco Sucks stuff and the Disco Demolition Night. And Black musicians were really scrambling, trying to figure out what it was the next sound was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
She was one of the dudes that made that sound what it was in the early 80s.
Yeah.
So when you listen to songs like, you know, I forgot I'm in love because I'm in love. That's another one. If you get a chance to watch the Unsung, there's a little blurb in between where he talks about where he's composing I'm in love and his neighbors are, you know, battling over what he should be doing with the song or whatever. So when you listen to stuff like I'm in love, Love Come Down, So Fine, what kind of, you know, where does that put him, you know, in the pantheon of great musicians? Because it seems like it was those three songs right there just sort of changed the tempo for music for Black music in the early 80s.
I think so. And you can hear his influence on a lot of different music. So we know that he influenced some other producers as well at that time and they sound very similar. And even speaking with Lilo Thomas, some of his sounds exactly like stuff Kashif would produce. And then connecting the dots, it's like Kashif had his hands on a lot of things. So even if you go to my Check the Rhymes YouTube and look up Lilo Thomas, he's telling stories about working with Kashif and how Kashif would have him on background vocals. And it's just like, wow, y'all all have that same tone. Like y'all all sound like Kashif. Like that right there is like, that man laid down vocal production, like, and the way people sounded at the time, as well as like the musical instrumentation part of it. But like, I think of him as like, he probably did influence like Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and all those that came after. But I do think that sometimes Kashif gets left out of the conversation. And that's one thing I think he was always afraid of, is that people would forget.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, I'll never understand because I'll be honest with you, I was late. I was probably in my early 30s when I first started listening to Kashif as an artist.
Yeah,
like summer 2014 was one of the worst summers of my life, but Lover, I Just Gotta Have You, Lover Turn Me On, I Just Gotta Have You. That song got me through the whole summer, and I mean, it was just like, you know. I mean, whenever, you know, things get tough, hold me close and turn away. You wasn't sure. I was like, damn, where have I been all this time? And then, you know, just getting into everything else that he had done, you know, with Melba Moore. Like, you know, there's a Melba Moore song from an album that I don't even think Melba really acknowledges anymore.
Yeah.
That I'm absolutely falling in love with. And that's Living for Your Love. I mean, you can hear Kashif on backgrounds. I think Freddie Jackson is on backgrounds, and Lala Cope co-wrote that song with him. And I can't remember what album it's on. I know the song is called "Living for Your Love." I know that much. I forgot the title of the album already.
Yeah, I don't remember the album either.
But you know, you could just hear that this dude just had a different sort of sensitivity towards the music that a lot of other producers didn't have. Like Leon Silvers is another guy from that era who I absolutely admire, but his stuff just had a rougher edge because he was a bass player. Like you just said, like Leon's stuff just had a little more thump to it.
Right.
Like, when you listen to the Whisper stuff, oh my God, like In the Raw was on my playlist when I went for my run this morning, and I was just thinking like, and then Stone Love was on my running playlist this morning too. So it's like you get Leon Silvers and Kashif back to back, and it's like, yeah, you can just hear the difference between these guys. But it seems like Kashif just had a deeper sensitivity towards the music, and that's why this stuff just, I mean, it feels like it aged better. Do you think his stuff aged better than most producers at that time?
I think so, because I was watching. I always watch Soul Train on when I'm cleaning up on Saturdays. Still, like I bought the box set, best of. So there was, I think it was from a clip from Soul Train Awards, but Whitney Houston came out and she sang "You Give Good Love," and we know the story of that, which is Kashif produced that song for her, and that was one of her first hits. And I just thought this song from the 80s still sounds like it could be current. Like it still does. A lot of his actually all of it still sounds like it could be current. Give or take a couple of songs that I'm not going to mention. But just the impact of him, and to see those artists that he worked with today still touring and singing those songs, to me it's just mind-blowing. Like I think sometimes, like, what would he say? And I don't know.
Yeah, I think when you listen to, I was just telling you before we went on that I had the his self-titled debut on repeat when I was cooking this morning, and when you think about it, because I went and looked it up real quick, it said that album was released February 22nd, 1983.
Let me see.
I was barely a year old, so I couldn't tell you, what was there. It is. She's got it. Self-titled. I mean, one thing I like about, just things about the 80s, just even down to the album covers. Like now, dudes are afraid to wear color because she was with a smile on his face.
Right.
I assume is in the middle of New York City.
Yeah.
What color is that? Is that fuchsia? Is that a light?
It's like a blue, but then the back of the album, which would be hard to see because of the plastic, he's wearing this outfit with these white sneakers that probably didn't go with it, but whatever.
But yeah, even just different things to the 80s, down to the album covers, dudes it just seems like R&B artists, male R&B artists anyway, had a little more fun with their music in the album covers. And then you just tell that because she was having a lot of fun in the studio. I was telling Shameika before we came on, I was listening to Rumors. And if you listen to Rumors, there's this part in the beginning where he says, "I like working in the dark." So
that part cracks me up so bad.
Nobody can see how I get down, so the people can steal my style and say people sound like Kashif. And it's like, well, I'm gonna roll with it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get artists having that type of fun in the studio anymore. But it seems like, he still took the art seriously. Is there do you think there's like a balance to that for, to be successful like he was, to be able to just be goofy at some points, but also at the same time, have like that horse race blinder mindset?
I think that's one thing I did take away from the short time I was able to have a friendship with him it's sad that I didn't get it until after he had already passed, but I was taking myself too seriously as far as like my career path and the way that I was trying to, like, I got to stay focused. But when I started Check the Rhymes, it was very like, I can have fun. I can loosen up, have fun, laugh, and not, if I mess up, oh, well, like it's okay. But I think one of the biggest things that he lived by, or at least that he shared during the time I was friends with him, is the power of being positive. Because I could say something like, I remember I was on my way to work and I was talking to him on the phone. And I was like, I swear I hate this job. I don't want to work at TV News no more, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, I'm not going to listen to you being negative and doing this. He's like, do something about it. You don't want to be there, do something about it. And I was like, at the time, I'm like, who are you talking to? That whole attitude thing. But he was right. Like, why sit in something and be miserable when you can do something about it? Like, make it happen, get out of that situation. So I think just like a lot of I'll give you another example for him. I think he also just didn't take himself too seriously. The day that he told me he was moving to Hawaii, he calls and he says, I've decided I'm moving to Hawaii. I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, I'm leaving in a couple days. I sold everything. What? I was like,
wow.
What'd you say? And he was like, yeah, the last thing I got to sell is my car. And I said, what? He's like, yeah, I'm just going to get a bicycle. Okay. And he did. He did.
You just gotta love people that live by their own rules, and I guess that probably goes back to him. I mean, I guess that's one of the positive things about him not having that rigid structure growing up is that
Yeah.
he was able to dream. I mean, every time I mention the unsung, I just find little bits and pieces that I enjoy about it. That he said once he got that little song flute, and the teacher said, "Okay, it's time to put it away and do math." He's like, "I don't want to do math. I want to keep blowing this little flute." So
Right. Right.
when you have that type of imagination and you're able to dream, then you take limits off yourself. And
Yeah.
and listening to anything that he's done, like people don't realize that he's got Grammy nominations and Grammy awards, but the one that took me by surprise was the one he did with Al Jarreau, Eggertown Groove from
Yeah.
the second album. And and what people don't realize is if you listen close, it's still the same backing track to "Are You the Woman," which has
Right.
Whitney on background vocals, by the way. But it's just Al Jarreau scatting about this little sea town up in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
That was educational because I was like, what the heck is Edgartown? And then I realized,
Right.
and then you look it up and you realize that's where all the rich black people went on Cape Cod back in the day. And it's like, oh, okay, so now you learn something. So it's like, because she just had this gift with music,
Yeah.
that made him like you said. I don't think we should forget him by any stretch of the imagination, and I think that's probably important that we're doing this episode because the further we get away from history, and how it is with people who think, I think the hardest thing to be on social media and see people talking about, I'm just gonna throw a sports reference out there.
Okay.
I know you're probably not gonna follow it, but that's fine. There'll be people that'll see something from when Michael Jordan was playing basketball, we'll say, and
Okay.
they'll say,
I follow that.
yeah, and they'll say we're done with the '90s, and it's like, do you not realize that Michael Jordan was just as big as the other MJ in the '90s?
Yeah.
Be serious for a second. Like just because you weren't there doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think that's the case with music too, because the further we get away, with more people 2016. Going to tell y'all who we lost, just to give y'all some background. We lost Maurice White in February that year. We lost Prince in April, and then we lost Kashif and Rod Temperton back to back in the fall in 2016. Those are four huge, influential voices in black music. Even though Rod Temperton was white, four influential black music voices of probably a good 20, 30, 40 years within 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
And when you lose those people, their stories get lost. Because that's why we always joke about putting Stevie Wonder in bubble wrap, because he's like one of the last ones standing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, when we do episodes like this, it's important because people need to know just how good, not just because she was as a musician, but, as Shameika's telling you, he was the person that inspired people.
Yeah. Yeah. I probably would not be where I am now if it hadn't have been for him gently pushing, gently pushing and encouraging and throwing ideas out there like, you could do this, you can do this, you could do this. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. But he believed in me. And yeah, I think that's something else that I've also been, as I've been doing interviews and things and hearing different perspectives of like from different artists about Kashif and working with Kashif. I think one of the main theme is he was very inspirational, but he was also hard in the studio because he knew what he wanted, and you weren't leaving till he got it. And Will Downing sent me a picture of him and Kashif the other day, and I was like, where'd this come from? And he's like, I haven't seen this in a long time. And it's just how just connected he was, even when he decided he wanted to buy, oh gosh, I forgot his name. I'm talking about Jackie Robinson's house.
Mm-hmm.
Remember? He did it. It was just like, I'm going to do this. And there were other stories that I've heard where he would say, let's go spend money on this, because, we're going to be rich later on. And of course, people would be like, bro, we ain't got no money right now. He's like, it's okay because we're going to be rich later. And he had that vision that a lot of people I don't think could see, and then he turned out to be right. Like, okay, if we just spend a little money here and invest in ourselves, then it'll pay off in the long run. But I do wonder what is going to happen because and I'm sure you're familiar, but he was working on the history of R&B. He was working on a documentary or docuseries. It's supposed to be 10 parts. I think he was almost finished with it. And so I think about this all the time, like, are we ever going to see it? I don't know. I don't know who, I'm sure his family has it, but I do think that it's something the culture needs to see. So I do hope at some point they release whatever is finished, or finish it and then release it.
Yeah, because I mean, it's literal. I mean, because I remember seeing him. I don't know if it was something you wrote or somebody else wrote, that he was talking about that this was a real passion project for him.
It was,
and I was like, yeah. I mean, the history of R&B. I mean, that's something that needs to be told. That's something we're still trying to tell today. I mean, you know, have you seen the Stack series yet?
Not yet. I need to get. It's on HBO Max, right?
Yeah, and when I
get the password.
I put my cable package back, man, and then when I realized, I was like, because I'm gonna cut it again, because you know it's like, you know, I don't even watch that much anyway. But you know, when I realized, I was like, wait a minute, I cut HBO. I didn't realize I cut HBO.
Yeah,
I'm so mad at myself. I was like, all right, so maybe I'll just get Max for like a month and then just watch it and then just do it that way. But yeah, you know, it's important that we tell the history of R&B, because I mean, Shameika and I are R&B fans of a certain age. We're not going to age ourselves. I mean, you know, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, Shameika, two things that I've learned: you never ask a woman her age, you never ask a woman her weight. So
exactly.
I'm not. I mean, if Shameika wants to tell you, that's her business. I ain't gonna do it. But I'm 42, so you know, I'm not gonna be one of those old people that say R&B today sucks. I'm just gonna say the stuff that we like is just harder to find.
Yes.
So yes. I mean, it's out there. I mean, you just gotta do a little digging. But I mean, back when we were growing up, you didn't have to dig.
Right.
Because I mean, you had Mike, you had Prince, you had Kashif producing and doing solo stuff. You had New Edition, on and on and on it goes. So I mean, it's like, I mean, yeah, R&B is it's in a rough stage right now, but you just have to dig a little deeper. But we still owe it to the people who came before us to tell the history, and that's, you know, why I wanted to have Shameika on, because you know we're huge Kashif fans. She knew the man, but I, you know, eventually became like a huge fan after just doing a deep dive. And you know, I encourage every music fan to do a deep dive. I mean, if you're just curious about somebody, I mean, there's no excuse now. Everything's on stream for the most part. I mean,
I even have his email signature tatted on my arm. Like, you can't see it, but it's there. He always signed it, always in gratitude. And so, of course, after he passed, I found myself.
That was an email you sent when we were setting up.
Yeah, I changed mine. Yep.
Yo,
that's where it comes from.
I just realized that. But yeah, I mean, it's important that we continue to tell these stories, because it's like, you can't forget where you came from. You don't know where you're going till you know where you've been.
Exactly.
So getting back to the music aspect of it, I know you got the vinyl sitting right there.
I do.
So let me ask, what are the, you feel like they can be either songs that he wrote, songs he produced, or just his songs? Like, what do you feel like it'd be like the 5 or 10 definitive Kashif sound songs that people you think would, you know, get a chance to get to know him as a musician and as a person?
That's hard. I think all the songs we've already mentioned, that all those definitely. For me, honestly, this entire first album.
Okay.
Like, yeah. But then again, this album where you mentioned which song was it? Hold on, I'm blind.
It was Every Town Groove, and Are You?
Yeah, that one. This song, like, Baby Don't Break Your Baby's Heart is one of my favorites on here, and I've been missing you. Yeah, and speaking of, he just had to throw them dang white tennis shoes on with his black outfit.
Those must have been his lucky shoes. I never got to see the back covers, but yeah, he must have. Those must have been his lucky shoes or something.
Yeah. And so this is a crazy story. So then when I found out he passed away, and I have a reason I'm bringing this up because I just happened to wake up in the middle of the night, right? It was so weird because I didn't have my fan on, my ceiling fan, but the chain on it kept clinking. It just kept clinking. And I was like, what is going on? So I woke up and so I looked, I don't know, something said, look at your phone. And it was from, I think it was Soul Tracks. It was an email. And it said, Art, rest in peace, Kashif. And I was like, no, let me go get some water and come back because that's not what this says. And so I read it, and of course, I tried to call. Of course, he didn't answer. And so I'm like, is this for real? And because it's an awful story because I was upset. I was mad at him, honestly, and didn't even. So it was kind of, I had to, as well in my grieving, had to deal with that too. But I had to kind of come to terms with, he didn't even know I was mad. Like, I was just mad because at the time I was still in news, but we were having riots here and like it was all over the news. There was like a lot going on. And I thought he ain't even called to check on me. He ain't even called to see if I'm alive. Not even knowing he was gone. Right. Yeah. So that's another thing. People just shouldn't assume. Fast forward to a few nights later, I had this dream about him. And the song that kept playing in the dream was Dancing in the Dark, Heart to Heart off this album.
Yeah.
So I think that would be another one of my top, like, must listens for people that want to hear his sound because it's such a beautiful song. It's a beautiful, yeah, I'm just going to say that. It's just a beautiful song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know if I've gotten to 5 or not, but because I took some of the ones you already mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, it's close enough. I mean, we discussed just about everything, So, if y'all want to do a deep dive, like I had the fortune to do a deep dive. Like I said, mostly everything is on stream now, so you don't have any excuses. The only ones that ain't on stream, I mean, well, this ain't got nothing to do with Kashif, but this is just my chance to air grievances, and that is whoever is in charge of Mr. Clarence Avant's estate. For the love of God. Thanks for his band catalog back on Spotify, please. And Alexander O'Neal's debut album, please and thank you. That's all. That's all I want to say. But yeah, but overall, just like to close this out, how do you think Kashif would want to be remembered, and how do you think people should remember him?
I think that one of the things he was just very adamant on is one, don't forget him. But two, I think every song he put his hands on, he would want to be remembered for. But I think the biggest accomplishment that, well, I don't know where I put it. Sorry, I got to dip down to get it off the floor. Was this book because he wanted people to know about the recording industry. He wanted people to know. And so his big thing was teaching that and making sure that people were well equipped of knowing what they're getting into because yeah, it's all like flashy. You think you're going to jump in and make a ton of money, but if you don't know the business aspect, you're going to get your feelings hurt. So I think that is the biggest thing is that he was, not only this songwriter, producer, singer, he was an educator, like there's so many things to describe him, but I think, and a dreamer. Right. And he made his dreams come true. So I think that looking at his life, he didn't let the way he grew up stop him in any way. He used that to fuel his passion and keep going. So I think he would want to be remembered for those things. And he would have wanted to be remembered for that docuseries. So they need to put it out.
that history of R&B series. If Kashif's estate, your family, friends, y'all listening, please. Shameika's been more in tune than I am. I'm just a fan, but Shameika's actually worked in the business. So, you got a good music journalist right here. You got a music stand right here. Reach out to us. We will help. We will gladly.
What's funny is there were so many people because I told you Kashif would collect people as he went along, and there were a lot of people that reached out. They're like, Kashif told me I could help with this documentary. What do I do? And I'm like, why y'all asking me? He told me the same thing. but we all just wanted to genuinely help him bring this project to fruition. So, again, it's been 8 years this year. Is that right?
Mhm.
8 years
Yep.
this year. So hopefully, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know who to reach out to find out what's going on with that. But maybe one day, if we keep flooding the legacy account, maybe the whoever's handling that will be like, all right, here, damn, take it.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So for anyone who wants to follow you off of here, because you've done a lot. I mean, of course, there's the Check the Rhymes YouTube page. There's your, I know you have a couple other podcasts, and there's the Mofo Chronicles blog. Because I'll never forget I think one of the first videos I watched of yours was a dating related video. And because this is going to go up on a Sunday. So, we're not going to get too detailed into it. It's one of the funniest stories I've ever heard, but you can go to her channel and check it out. But the Mofo Chronicles is the blog. But where else? People want to,
which was access. The story? Which was the one you saw? Was it the squirting one?
I'm sorry, but yeah, that's the one. Man, y'all gonna have to go see that for yourselves, man. I'm sorry, but just let me get myself back together. If people want to find your work and you, where can they go?
So like you said, Check the Rhymes TV on YouTube. And then all my socials are there, but the mofochronicles.com is the blog. What else? Ladies Edition podcast is the podcast about women's health. And then I just started hosting Celebration, which is on blackdoctor.org. So that's more health, wellness, lifestyle meets Check the Rhymes. So it's like a mashup of all the things that I'm doing on there. And so that's been exciting. So yeah, you can find me pretty much just Google my name. You'll find me.
All right. And ladies and gentlemen, that is Shameika Rhymes. Shameika, thank you for coming on. Greatly appreciate it. We got to do this again. Maybe not about music, because, we've had conversations about things other than music. So maybe we need to run this back, at a different, on a different topic. But definitely thank you for coming on and talk about the greatness of Kashif. We really appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you for having me. And hopefully I did him proud. Or he's up there thinking, what are you talking about? Who knows? But But anyway, yes, get Kashif's albums and the book, and just still support him, support his music, and continue to stream, buy the vinyl, the book, and be the squeaky wheel so we can get that docuseries released.
History of R&B, we need it. And that's going to do it for this edition of Black Music Month 30 here on the Chris Stevens Writes YouTube channel. Greatly appreciate y'all for watching. All the contact information for myself, as well as Shameika, if you want to go check her stuff out, will be in the description below. Want to invite you all to like, subscribe, and comment on the videos so we can get this algorithm popping, so I can get more than 35 followers or however many I have subscribers at this point. This channel's got to grow at some point. So thank y'all for watching. Until the next time we speak, y'all be good or be good at it.